Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Jam Bets. I am Tike, joined by the fantastic Mamma Mia. We we will be going over recap of our Super Wild Card Monday game, Vikings versus Rams. Then we're going to be diving into the Saturday playoff games. We have one AFC game, which is the Texans versus the Chiefs, and then one NFC game, Commanders versus the Lions. So I'll go ahead. I'll kick it right off with the recap. Some tough sledding for me on the Vikings versus Rams. I picked Puka Nakua to be my overperformer. I had two overperformers. My first one was Puka. The second one was Aaron Jones. Neither one of them were really able to get anything going. Puka had 7 targets, only caught I think 4 of them. And Aaron Jones, the Vikings just weren't in a position to run for most of that game. So 0 for 2 for me on my overperformers. How did you do, Mamma Mia?
All right, so I had Addison for Minnesota as my overperformer. He caught 3 of 8 for 29 yards. The LA Rams defense just smothered them. Hockenstein had a better day, and Jefferson caught 5 of 8 for 59. So it was a rough day for all of the receivers on Minnesota. And then I had Aaron Jones as the underperformer. We disagreed on that one. So, yep, I got bragging rights there. 13 catches, 48 yards, no touchdowns. Caught 3 of 6 passes for 12. Like you said, the Rams just smothered this offense. And Sam Darnold had a very, very tough time.
All right.
Yep.
So we'll go right into the Saturday games. First game on Saturday, we have the Texans traveling to Kansas City. That game kicks off 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Weather for this game shouldn't be too bad. It will be about 24 degrees at kickoff. There will be some wind in there, about 10 to 20 mile an hour gusts, so it will be windy. Kansas City is right now the favorite by 8.5 points. Pretty low scoring total as well. That game's total is slated at 41.5 total points. So I've got an overperformer and an underperformer. I'm going to give out. My first overperformer I'm going to use is going to be Hollywood Brown. Texans defense looked amazing last week against the Chargers. But I think Hollywood Brown and really the Chiefs in general are going to be able to move the ball more effectively. Texans use 3 schemes primarily, and Hollywood Brown in his limited time with the Chiefs has been a very impactful player for them. But the 3 schemes that the Texans use, they use cover 1, 21% of their plays, which Hollywood Brown has a 20% target share on. Texans use cover 3, 28% of plays. Hollywood Brown has almost a 26% target share against cover 3. And then the Texans will also run cover 4 about 20% of the time. And Hollywood Brown has a 20% target share there as well. Looking at Hollywood Brown's line on the sports books is listed at 3.5 receptions for the game. Hollywood Brown has cleared that line in every game he's played this year. Mind you, it's only been 2 games as they got the Week 18 game off. He's actually crushed that line in one of the games and then cleared it with 4 receptions the other game. So I'm looking at Hollywood Brown to overperform. Really in this game in general, from what I've seen, is there's not a lot of high bar players. Chiefs are going to spread the ball around to a lot of players. They have a very impactful, a lot of players on their offense that impact the game. But I think Hollywood Brown is going to overperform based on what he's expected to do. I do have an underperformer also sticking with the Chiefs. I'm going to pick my underperformer as Kareem Hunt. Last time these two teams played each other, which I think was week 15 or 14, it was towards the end of the season. Kareem Hunt led Kansas City's backfield, and he did get a touchdown. I'm seeing that shift this week. I think Hunt is going to be very touchdown dependent on if he is what I would say likely going to be successful or not. And I think Pacheco, now that he's healthy, is going to get most of those carries. The books also project Pacheco to get bulk of the carries and the attempts. Kareem Hunt's line is at 31 and a half yards, and he's only projected to get 9 carries in the game. So he'd have to average 3.5 yards per carry to beat his rushing line. And the Texans have a pretty stellar run defense. So I don't see Hunt doing that. I see Pacheco coming back, changing of the guard, going back to Pacheco. I see Pacheco maybe not overperforming, but I see him being the spotlight of the Chiefs' backfield. I did find it interesting as well that Pacheco has been in the league for 2 years, and he is yet to lose a playoff game in those 2 years he's been in the league. Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls since he has joined the NFL. So I think Pacheco coming back into that, I think fits very well in with him being successful. So, Mamma Mia, how about you? What are you looking at for the first game on Saturday slate?
All right, so I was gonna go to Joe Mixon again, but I can't just keep throwing this guy around. So my overperformer for Houston is gonna be their defense. I think Kansas City's offense hasn't played a game since before Christmas, and there's gonna be a little bit of rust. So I think that and I think that defense is humming. I think D'Amico Ryans has that defense playing at a very high level. They're very excited to be in another, in the divisional round game, and they're gonna do their very best to try and get after the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs. But that could be multiple people, as you just said. There's so much talent on that offense that you can't just shut one piece down. So that will be interesting to watch. My underperformer, I'm going to go with Nico Collins. The last time these guys met, it was week 16 in Kansas City. Kansas City won 27-19. There were 2 touchdowns by Houston. Tank Dell, who is not on the team right now, he's injured, and Dalton Schultz made those touchdowns. So last meeting, they kind of shut Collins down. He caught 7 of 10 passes for 60 yards, no touchdowns. So they know him. They've already handled him. They already know how to take care of that. I think Kansas City, they play all kinds of different defenses, and Nico is going to be looked at, but I don't know if he's going to be open very much. I think they'll put the safety over the top on him quite a bit. And then for my Kansas City team, or my Kansas City overperformer, I'm going with Isaiah Pacheco. I agree. I think Kansas is going to want to control the clock. They're going to want to keep Patrick Holmes clean and healthy. They don't want any dirt on his uniform on Saturday. So I think they're going to just run Pacheco every chance they get. I think Hunt will get quite a few opportunities. Last time, the last meeting in the 16th week, Hunt had 11 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. So Pacheco had 9 carries for 26 yards and no touchdowns, but I think that was maybe his first game back from his injury. I would say my sleeper in this game is Hunt. I think he's potentially going to have a decent game, but Pacheco's going to carry the water here. Okay. And the underperformer is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. The last meeting, he had a decent showing. He caught 4 of 4 for 37 yards, no touchdowns. There's so many mouths to feed. And like I said, I don't see Kansas City, unless they have to, come out and sling the ball around. I think they're just going to try and pound it and control the clock and try and wear that defense down. But we'll see. I did forget to mention my overperformer and underperformer for Los Angeles Rams. So I'll go real quick. My overperformer was Kyron Williams. I would say he probably overperformed. 16 carries, 76 yards. Then he had 3 catches for 3 targets, 16 yards, and a touchdown. And then I said the defensive backs on the Rams would not perform well, and I was totally wrong there. Quentin Lake had 9 tackles, Witherspoon had 3 and a forced fumble, and Rosenblum had 7. They were lights out. They beat everybody. And my sleeper pick for that game was C.J. Ham, which, I know that was a stretch. He did catch his only target for 8 yards. I think they should have thrown the ball to him a little bit more. So I don't think I gave predictions. Did you give predictions of who's going to win, or do you want to do that now?
I have not given predictions. I think the fact that you called C.J. Ham and he got a reception is kind of mind blowing. So you were on to something there. If they would have thrown him the ball again, he probably would have gotten 20 yards. And yeah, amazing call. Amazing call there. So you have Nico and D-Hop as your underperformer. Your overperformer, you have Schultz. And you have a sleeper as Kareem Hunt for the Texans-Chiefs game, correct?
Okay, let's see. Houston is my overperformer is Houston's defense and Isaiah Pacheco for Kansas. Underperformer is Nico Collins and D-Hop.
Okay.
All right. And do you need the recap on the next game? No, that was it, right?
No, that was it. So, yeah, for the Texans-Chiefs, Chiefs are favored by 8.5 points. The total for the game is listed at 41.5 points. I know the Texans just played really good football against the Chargers. But I personally have to go the Chiefs. Chiefs haven't played a game since Christmas, as you mentioned. Chiefs have been off for, I think, 5 weeks. They're healthy. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions playing at home. I am going the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs cover the 8.5 points. I think it will be interesting to see how the Texans defense does. Texans have had a very stellar and I'd say under the radar defense this year. They are a premier defense. They have stopped the run consistently. They've stopped the pass consistently. Derek Stingley is an all-pro cornerback, all-pro first team this year. I'll be interested to see how they use him, who they put him on. I don't think he's big enough to guard Kelsey. I don't know who he's going to guard on Kansas City. There's a lot of people over there to guard. I'm taking Kansas City to cover. I think Kansas City wins by more than 8.5 points. How about you, Mama? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Houston is an admirable team, but we've got such veteran presence on the Kansas City team that they're going to school the young Houston Texans. I have Kansas City winning 24-17. So it's a 7-point spread. So I think Houston covers barely this, but I think they're going to cover. I think the defense is going to keep them in the game. And, I think Bobby Slowick is a really good coach, offensive coordinator. But he's going up against the defense and Spags. He just is a magician. No one knows what's coming at you. So it'll be a good chess match to watch. And I just think that the offense of Kansas City might be a little rusty, and that's going to cause them not to cover, not to score. And they have been so many close games this year. Kansas City hasn't really been blowing anybody out. When they're winning, they're kind of close games. So I don't think they're going to win by 8.5 points. That's my prediction, and I'm sticking with it.
I like it. Yeah, I think Kansas City leads the league in one possession score game wins. So yeah, kind of weird. I could definitely see. I don't see why that would change in the playoffs. I'm going to stick with my prediction. I think they cover. You've got the Texans to cover. I've got the Chiefs to cover. So one of us will win. All right, Mama. Who do you have as your over and underperformer for the Lions Commanders?
My God, this is a get your popcorn ready game. Woo, baby. So Washington is on the road. For the season, they were 5-3 on the road. They beat Cincinnati, New York, New Orleans, Dallas, and most recently they beat Tampa Bay with a doink kick in the last play of the game. I'm not so certain about that. So my picks are going to be I'm going to take the over performer is Jaden Daniels for Washington. The kid's got it. He's just got it. He's got a good offensive line. I think last week he was 15 of 18, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. He knows how to score. He ran 13 times for 36 yards. My underperformer for Washington is going to be Washington's defense. They're going to be walking into Detroit, and then they're going to be walking out of Detroit with their head spinning. Like, what was that? The under over is, I think, 55 points or something like that. Pretty high scoring. You know, this offense, when it's 4th down, they go for it. They go for it, and they're pretty successful with it. Detroit is 7-2 at home. So my underperformer for Washington is their defense. They've only had in the regular season 7 interceptions. Jared Goff is going to be standing back there with the nail file, just picking them to pieces. And he's not going to have to, because my Detroit overperformer is going to be Gibbs. Gibbs is going to just set Washington back quite a bit. It might destroy them for next season, actually. You know how sometimes there's a Super Bowl hangover? They're going to get so smashed up by this kid, they're going to have their breath taken away. I really think Gibbs. And then Montgomery is back. He's going to play as well. I think there's going to be, just a lot of smash mouth offense from Detroit coming at him. However, my underperformer, and it's very hard to pick an underperformer for Detroit in this game, I'm going to say Amon St. Brown, because somebody has to be the decoy, right? It's going to be him. He's going to take, hopefully, double coverage and take the heat off the other guys, which is going to make my sleeper picks very interesting. I am saying that my sleeper picks for Detroit, Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick has really good chemistry with Jared Goff. You might see that tight end Boyle out there too. They're going to do some uncharacteristic things. My sleepers for Washington, Curtis Samuel came out of nowhere last week. He's got great hands. So if they can get the ball to him, they might be wise to do that. And the other sleeper who I'm definitely thinking is going to play a lot is Eckler. Eckler had a really good game last week, and he's another guy who, he plays the game so well. Even though he's a little more advanced in age, he's still got it. So those would be my sleepers. And that's what I got for my under and over performers. Tike, how about you?
Yeah, I think underperformers might be a little bit difficult to pick in this game. The total for a divisional playoff game at 55 is kind of ludicrous. But we are seeing 2 defenses that have given up a ton of yards and a ton of points this season. So I've got 2 overperformers. I do not have an underperformer. I agree with you. I do see Amon being kind of the decoy. He is the veteran there. He, call it the burden of leadership, but you do what you have to do to win. And if he has to go out there and be a decoy, I don't think he is an ego that would prevent him from doing that. I think he would do what is needed for the Lions to be successful, where, maybe some of those other diva wide receivers would put their nose up at kind of being a decoy.
Right.
So I can see Amon being that. I can see him drawing the double teams and making the defense pay attention to him while his teammates run wild down the field. So with that, the first overperformer I'm going to take is Jamison Williams. He was going to be the second guy I gave out, but with that little rant with Amon, I figured we'll just go straight with him. So Washington Redskins are a pretty abysmal defense. They are giving up a lot of yards on the ground and over the air, and a lot of points on top of that. Um, Washington is allowing 142 wide receiver receiving yards per game so far this year. That is second in the playoffs to only the Lions, who are giving up more wide receiver yards per game, which explains this total. I see Amon being the decoy, as you mentioned, and the reason I'm really leaning towards JMO is the Commanders run the most cover one man defense of any team left in the playoffs. They run cover one, excuse me, at right about 30%. It's actually 29.8% of their defensive plays have been man coverage, cover one. And Jamo Williams just eats man coverage. He is the favorite target for Goff against cover one. And I don't see that trend stopping. I mean, he's going to see it 30% of the time. He's faster, he's bigger, he's stronger than, Lattimore's likely going to be on Amon. And I see Jamo exceeding his lines. I see Jamo being the difference maker for when the Lions need a big explosive play passing. I mean, and then we'll go to my other overperformer, which is also on the Lions. I'm picking David Montgomery. It was really kind of a coin toss for me between Montgomery and Gibbs. Montgomery obviously coming back from injury. This will be his first game in a couple weeks, and Gibbs has more than held down the backfield without him. Gibbs has actually averaged over 100 rushing yards per game since Montgomery's been out. But I'll be going with Montgomery. The main reason I'm going with Montgomery is I think there's a high potential that both of Gibbs and Montgomery score a touchdown. But I think if they get into the red zone or the green zone, I give Montgomery the edge there to get the touchdown. If there's one touchdown to come, I would think it would go to Montgomery. So this year, Montgomery has 17 carries inside the 5-yard line, where Gibbs only has 16 carries inside the 5-yard line. But Gibbs has played an extra 3 games than Montgomery. So I'm seeing Montgomery maybe get that extra nod, be the bulldozer in there, really get those extra yards that's needed, especially if it's a 1st and goal or 2nd and goal. I see Montgomery
Go
coming
Knuckles.
in. Yeah, exactly. Go Knuckles. Exactly. That's the epitome of it. Like that. You're right. I couldn't have said it any better than that. I also do think it's there's a lot of openings for Gibbs and Montgomery. Gibbs' line is pretty high in my opinion. I think it's almost 70 rushing yards in the game, where Montgomery's is only 44 and a half. Washington is giving up the most amount of running back rushing yards per game of any team left in the playoffs. They're giving up 111 rushing yards per game. So there's going to be no shortage of Montgomery and Gibbs running the ball and getting yards. Montgomery's rushing line, he's cleared it 4 of his past 6 games, and he's played some pretty good defenses in that stretch, which Washington is not.
Right.
So I see David Montgomery potentially getting the touchdown, and I also see Montgomery clearing his rushing line of 44 and a half yards. If Jameson Williams is an underperformer, I think it is likely because of what I would call the Ravens situation, where the Ravens can just turn around and hand the ball off and average nearly 9 yards a carry. I would not be surprised at all if Gibbs and Montgomery average close to 7 yards per carry this game.
Wow.
I wouldn't. Their offensive line is just amazing. The Redskins' defensive line really isn't that great. Payne got hurt in their last game. Bobby Wagner also got a little bit banged up. Those are their premier run stoppers.
Wagner's supposed to play.
Yeah, Wagner's playing. Payne is also playing. They're both playing. But got a little banged up. Wagner actually missed a couple plays last week's game. Payne missed a couple plays last week's game. I think Wagner, he's a tank. He's not missing. But that offensive line, I think just those two players, it's going to be those two players versus 7 on the other side. I see the Lions running the ball, and I see the Lions dominating the time of possession here.
Right.
So the spread for this game, the Lions are favored by 9.5. The total, as we mentioned, is 55. Mamma Mia, what are your thoughts for the win, the cover, the total, the over, the under?
Well, 9.5 is a lot, but I think Detroit's going to smoke them. They're just going to smoke them. I got a prediction of 31-17, which is 48, which is just under the 55 projection. I think Washington's going to, like I said, their defense is going to get the snot kicked out of them. And Detroit's defense is no slouch. They got that Joseph guy who intercepts people whenever he wants. So they're gonna put Washington packing. Washington is gonna be running out of the Detroit Lions stadium to get home. The tail between their legs. Not commanders of anything when they walk out of that stadium.
No. I'm with you. I think the only team that can stop the Lions is the Lions.
Okay.
Ben Johnson's been interviewing. Aaron, what's his name? Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn has been interviewing.
Mm.
I hope that those haven't kind of moved their focus away. But I think the only thing that can stop the Lions is the Lions. Their offense and their defensive coordinator are interviewing for other teams mid-playoffs, which is kind of ridiculous that that's allowed. Their focus should be solely on their team winning the Super Bowl. I think if they were not interviewing, I think the Lions win by 25. But that's the only thing that really worries me is the attention that those coaches have. Both of those coaches are potentially talking and negotiating tens of $20 million contracts while trying to coach and scheme their team's playoff. It's distracting.
The most important game.
Yeah.
The most important games of the season.
It's distracting.
That's probably not a good policy to have. They used to not be able to do that. But they've only been on Zoom calls. They can't interview them until they're out of the playoffs technically. They've only been on Zoom calls technically. So, but again, it's taken time away from them being able to work with their team and concentrate on the big prize. So I agree. I would be a little upset if I was Dan Campbell that, you got these poachers hanging around when we're trying to get work done.
Yeah.
Right?
And now if the Lions come out and win by the 25, I think that's maybe a little bit notching the cap for both of them as well. Like, hey, you kept your priorities straight. I think if they lose by 25, I think they got their focuses shifted otherwise. Because Lions at home, the crowd is going to be going nuts. The crowd itself is probably worth 15 points.
When was the last time there was a playoff game in Detroit? I don't even know.
Didn't they have one at home last year? I think it was last year. I think they got the wild card last year.
Oh, they had the wild card at home?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, we'll have to look it up. We'll have to recap that. We'll bring that up at the start of our next call.
Who won the division last week? Minnesota last year, right?
Let me Google it.
All right. Well, we could talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll find it. We'll get the answers.
All right, or Sunday. Okay. Take care.
All right.
Stay strong, LA.
Stay strong, LA. Thank you, everyone. Bye.